The morning sun shone bright over New Seoul Colony. Children's laughter filled the air as 6 kids played in the Central Park. 8-year-old Minho chased his friend Yuna around the playground. She was 7 and very fast. 9-year-old Jiwon sat under a tree reading a book to little Sora, who was only 6. Daeun and Hyeon, both 8 years old, built something with blocks near the fountain. It was a perfect day on this peaceful world. The colony sat on the edge of human space, far from the busy trade routes. Most people here were farmers, teachers, and workers who wanted quiet lives. They had moved here to escape the wars and fighting that happened in other parts of the galaxy. Nari watched her son Minho from the medical clinic window. She smiled as he played with his friends. At 42, she looked like any other mother in the colony. Her dark hair was tied back as she worked on patient files. No one would guess that 20 years ago she was General Nari of the 3rd Terran Medical Corps. No one knew about the terrible things she had seen during the Human-Centauri Wars. Across the square, Bora taught her morning class at the settlement school. Her daughter Yuna was supposed to be in class, but Bora had let the children have outdoor time. Bora was 38 and loved teaching. The colonists thought she was just a simple teacher. They did not know she was once the youngest strategic operations general in human history. They called her the Ghost of Proxima during the war because she destroyed entire enemy fleets using only asteroids and clever planning. In the agricultural domes, Hana checked the crop systems. Her daughter Jiwon helped sometimes after school. Hana was 40 and good with plants. Everyone thought she was just a farmer. But 20 years ago, she was an agricultural warfare specialist. She created biological weapons that helped humanity survive when enemies surrounded their worlds. She knew how to make plants into tools of war. The communication center was quiet as Minji worked on the daily reports. Her son Sora played in the park while she handled messages between the colony and other human settlements. At 39, Minji seemed like a normal communication worker. But she used to be Communications Intelligence General. She once hacked into enemy networks and spread fear through entire alien fleets using only words and lies. Yoonji managed the colony's supply systems from her office. Her daughter Daeun was good at building things just like her mother. At 41, Yoonji looked like any logistics manager. The colonists trusted her to keep everything running smoothly. They did not know she was once Logistics Marshal Iron Mountain. She kept human armies fighting for 3 years when they were completely surrounded by enemies. In the power station, Isol checked the energy systems that kept the colony running. Her son Hyun was smart with machines and often helped her. At 43, she was the oldest of the 6 women. Everyone saw her as a simple engineer, but she used to be the chief engineer of humanity's most feared warship. She designed weapons that could destroy entire planets. All 6 women had come to New Seoul for the same reason. They wanted peace. They wanted to raise their children far from war and violence. They had seen enough death and destruction to last many lifetimes. Now they just wanted to be mothers and live quiet lives. The children did not know about their mother's past. Minho thought his mother just helped sick people. Yuna believed her mother only taught school. Jiwon saw her mother as someone who grew food. Sora knew his mother worked with computers. Daeun thought her mother just moved supplies around. Hyun believed his mother only fixed machines. The kids were happy and safe. They went to school, played with friends, and learned about the peaceful galaxy they lived in. Their mothers told them stories about heroes and adventures, but never about real war. The women had agreed never to speak of their military past. That life was over. They were just mothers now. At noon, the children ate lunch in the park. They shared food and laughed at jokes. Minho showed the others a small toy robot his mother had given him. Yuna sang a song she learned in school. Jiwon read them a story about space explorers. Sora drew pictures in the dirt with a stick. Daeun and Hyun built a tower with their blocks. The 6 mothers watched their children from their workplaces. Each woman felt peaceful seeing their kids so happy. This was why they came here. This was what they had fought for during the war, a place where children could play without fear. But peace never lasts forever. At exactly 12:47 in the afternoon, the sky changed. Dark shapes appeared in the bright blue air above the colony. The shapes grew larger and larger. They were ships, big ships with strange designs and dark metal hulls. The children stopped playing and looked up. They had never seen ships like these before. The few ships that visited New Seoul were small trader vessels or human patrol craft. These ships were huge and scary looking. Nari dropped her medical files and ran outside. The other 5 women also rushed from their buildings. They all knew what those ships were. Vaxian Empire patrol vessels, warships. The Vaxians were a powerful alien race that controlled many star systems. They looked like tall lizards with rough skin and sharp teeth. They believed they were better than all other species. They especially looked down on humans as weak creatures who were only good for farming and simple work. All humans in this settlement, a loud voice came from the ships. You are in violation of Vaxian territorial claims. This world now belongs to the Vaxian Empire. You will prepare for immediate evacuation or face punishment. The colonists gathered in the streets and looked up with fear. They had never expected this. New Sol was supposed to be in human space, protected by treaties and agreements. How could the Vaxians claim it? Smaller ships dropped from the big vessels. These landing craft touched down around the colony. Tall, scaled creatures in dark armor stepped out. They carried energy weapons and moved like soldiers. The lead Vaxian was bigger than the others. He had scars on his face and cold yellow eyes. I am Commander Thexmar of the Vaxian Imperial Fleet, the alien announced. This settlement is built on Vaxian territory. You humans are trespassers. You have 1 hour to gather your belongings and board our transport ships. The colony leader, an old man named Park, stepped forward. Please, Commander. We have been here for 8 years. We have legal documents that show this world belongs to human space. We have done nothing wrong. Thexmar looked at the old man like he was looking at an insect. Human documents mean nothing to the Vaxian Empire. Your species is weak and your claims are worthless. You will leave now or we will make you leave. Some of the colonists tried to argue. They showed the legal papers that gave them the right to live on New Sol. They explained that they were peaceful farmers and workers who just wanted to live quietly. The Vaxian commander grew angry. He did not like humans talking back to him. In his mind, humans were beneath Vaxians in every way. They were small, weak, and had no real military power. They should obey without question. Enough, Thexmar shouted. You humans think you can argue with the Vaxian Empire? You think your words matter? I will show you what happens when inferior species refuse to obey. He turned to his soldiers and pointed at the park, where the 6 children still stood. They had stayed close together when the ships arrived, scared but curious. They did not understand what was happening. Fire on that area, Thexmar ordered. Show these humans the price of defiance. The 6 mothers heard the order. They all started running toward the park at the same time, but they were too far away. The Vaxian ships in orbit turned their weapons toward the small park in the center of the colony. Bright beams of energy shot down from space. The beams hit the park and exploded in balls of fire and light. The ground shook. Buildings rattled. Smoke and dust filled the air. When the smoke cleared, the park was gone. In its place was a black crater still glowing with heat. The playground was destroyed. The fountain was melted metal. The trees were ash. And the 6 children who had been playing there just moments before were gone. Not even their bodies remained. They had been turned to nothing by the orbital bombardment. The 6 mothers reached the edge of the crater at the same time. They stared into the smoking hole where their children had been playing, where Minho had chased Yuna, where Jiwon had read to Sora, where Daeun and Hyeon had built their tower of blocks. All 6 children were dead. Killed in an instant by a commander who wanted to make a point about human weakness. Nari fell to her knees at the crater's edge. Bora stood frozen, staring at the destruction. Hana gripped her fists so tight her knuckles went white. Minji's face went completely blank. Yoonji's eyes filled with a cold fire. Isul looked up at the Vaxian ships with an expression that would have terrified anyone who really knew her. Commander Thexmar watched the human women mourn their dead children. He felt satisfied. Now these weak creatures would understand Vaxian power. Now they would obey without question. He had no idea what he had just done. He had killed the children of 6 women who once brought entire alien civilizations to their knees. He had awakened sleeping giants who had spent 20 years trying to forget how to make war. The most dangerous enemies are not those who love to fight. The most dangerous enemies are those who choose peace until someone forces them to remember why they were so good at war. The 6 mothers stood at the crater where their children died. 3 days passed since the children died. The Vaxian soldiers walked through New Sol colony like they owned it. They set up checkpoints and guard posts. They told the humans when to work and when to sleep. Commander Thexmar made his headquarters in the old colony meeting hall. The 6 mothers seemed to accept their new situation. They went back to their jobs and followed Vaxian orders without complaint. To the alien soldiers, they looked like broken women who had given up after losing their children. This was exactly what the mothers wanted the Vaxians to think, but things were happening that the occupying forces did not notice. Nari worked in the medical clinic as usual. Wounded colonists came to her after accidents with Vaxian equipment. She treated their injuries and sent them home. But while she worked, she also did other things. She took blood samples from every Vaxian soldier who came for medical help. She studied their alien biology and made notes about their weaknesses. During the war 20 years ago, Nari had created biological weapons that targeted specific alien species. She could make diseases that would kill Centauri soldiers, but leave humans completely healthy. She knew how alien bodies worked and how to break them. The Vaxians have weak immune systems, she wrote in her hidden notes. Their respiratory organs cannot filter certain toxins. Their nervous system responds badly to specific chemical compounds. She was building a database of how to kill Vaxians without hurting humans. Bora still taught at the settlement school, but her lessons had changed. She taught the children emergency drills in case of Vaxian attacks. The children learned how to hide, how to move quietly, and how to pass messages without being seen. They thought it was like playing games, but Bora was teaching them guerrilla warfare tactics. She showed them which buildings had the best hiding spots. She taught them how to make simple weapons from school supplies. She explained how to sabotage Vaxian equipment without getting caught. The older students learned more advanced lessons. Bora taught them about explosives hidden as science experiments. She showed them how to hack into communication systems during computer class. She trained them to fight like soldiers while making it look like normal school activities. Remember, she told her students, knowledge is the most powerful weapon. Learn everything about your enemy. Find their weaknesses. Strike when they least expect it. 20 years ago, Bora had destroyed an entire Centauri battle fleet using nothing but asteroids and careful timing. She earned the nickname the Ghost of Proxima because her enemies never saw her attacks coming until it was too late. Hana continued working in the agricultural domes. The Vaxians wanted the colonists to keep growing food for them. They did not care about farming details as long as the food kept coming. This was a big mistake. Hana began changing the plants in ways the aliens could not see. She modified the corn to produce natural stimulants that would make humans stronger and faster. She altered the wheat to create compounds that would boost human immune systems. She designed new vegetables that would help human bodies resist alien diseases. At the same time, she worked on more dangerous projects. She created flowers that released toxins deadly to Vaxian biology, but harmless to humans. She grew fruits that would cause severe illness in any alien who ate them. She developed plants that could be turned into chemical weapons with simple processing. During the war, Hana's biological weapons had saved human colonies from starvation sieges. She could make any environment work for humanity while making it deadly for their enemies. The Vaxians had no idea they were eating in a garden of death. Minji worked in the communication center under Vaxian supervision. The aliens monitored all messages going in and out of the colony. They thought they controlled all information. But Minji was much cleverer than they realized. She used old military encryption codes hidden inside normal messages. When she sent supply requests to other colonies, the real message was buried in the order numbers and delivery dates. She contacted her old military friends using frequencies the Vaxians did not monitor. But her most important work was psychological warfare. Minji began spreading rumors through Vaxian communication networks. She created fake reports about human plague ships that could kill entire crews. She planted stories about human death worlds, where the environment itself fought back against invaders. She hacked into Vaxian military databases and changed small details in their records. Ship schedules were altered. Supply lists were modified. Orders were delayed or sent to wrong locations. The changes were tiny, but they added up to create confusion and fear. The humans are planning something. Vaxian soldiers began saying to each other, strange things keep happening. Equipment breaks for no reason. Messages get lost. Maybe we should be more careful. 20 years ago, Minji had destroyed enemy morale using only words and carefully placed lies. She could make an entire alien fleet surrender without firing a shot. Yunji managed the colony's supply systems. The Vaxians needed her to keep track of food, tools, and other necessary items. They did not know that she was also secretly building an arsenal. She ordered extra metal for repairs but used it to make weapons. She requested additional electronics for communication systems, but turned them into bombs. She asked for medical supplies for the clinic, but gave them to Nari for her biological weapon research. Every day, Yunji moved weapons and equipment to hidden locations around the colony. She built secret storage rooms behind false walls. She created underground tunnels connecting important buildings. She prepared the entire settlement to become a fortress when the time came. The Vaxians saw supply shipments coming and going, but they only cared that their food and basic needs were met. They did not notice that Yunji was stockpiling everything needed for a war. During the human-Centauri conflict, Yunji had kept human armies fighting for 3 years while completely surrounded by enemies. She earned the name Iron Mountain because her supply lines never broke, no matter how bad things got. Isil continued maintaining the colony's power systems. The Vaxians needed electricity for their equipment and facilities. They trusted her to keep everything running because humans were supposed to be good with simple technology. But Isul was doing much more than basic maintenance. She was turning the entire power grid into a weapon. She installed hidden control systems that could overload any building on command. She wired remote explosives into key power junctions. She created backdoors into every piece of Vaxian equipment connected to the colony's energy network. She also began designing modifications for human spacecraft. Using the colony's industrial fabricators, she secretly built improved weapons, better shields, and faster engines. When human ships finally arrived, they would be ready for battle. The Vaxians never suspected that their simple human engineer was once the chief designer of humanity's most feared warship. Isul had created weapons that could destroy entire planets. As the days passed, the Vaxian occupation force began experiencing problems. Their equipment failed more often than it should. Their food sometimes made them sick. Their communication systems had glitches. Their power went out at inconvenient times. Commander Thexmar noticed these issues but blamed them on human incompetence. These primitive creatures cannot even maintain their own technology properly, he told his lieutenant Vectar. No wonder they are such a weak species. Vectar was not so sure. Sir, the pattern of failures seems strange, almost like someone is doing it on purpose. Impossible, Thexmar replied. Humans are not smart enough for sabotage. They are farmers and workers, not soldiers. A few dead children broke their spirit completely. They would not dare resist the Vaxian Empire. The commander could not have been more wrong. The 6 mothers were not broken by grief. They were sharpened by it. Every small failure the Vaxians experienced was carefully planned. Every accident was precisely calculated. Every problem was designed to weaken the enemy, while seeming like normal colonial incompetence. The women met secretly at night in Isul's underground workshop. They planned their next moves while the Vaxians slept. Each mother used her special skills to prepare for the coming war. How long before the other colonies notice we are missing communications? Bora asked. 3 more days, Minji answered. Then Admiral Junho will send patrol ships to investigate. Will they be ready for a fight? Nari wanted to know. The Admiral thinks this is a peaceful sector, Yunji said. His ships are not equipped for real combat. Then we need to even the odds before they arrive, Isul concluded. I can disable the Vaxian ships if we create a big enough distraction. Hana smiled coldly. I have been working on something special for Commander Thexmar. He will not enjoy his next meal. The 6 women had spent 3 days pretending to be helpless civilians, but they were really preparing for war using skills they had hoped never to use again. They had turned the entire colony into a trap, and the Vaxians had walked right into it. Tomorrow the trap would begin to close. In the crater where their children had died, small flowers were beginning to grow. Hana had planted them there as a memorial. They looked beautiful and peaceful. The Vaxians sometimes stopped to admire the pretty blossoms. They did not know that touching those flowers would slowly poison anyone with Vaxian biology. On the 4th night after the children died, Minji sat alone in the communication center. The Vaxian guards thought she was doing routine maintenance on the colony's message systems. They did not know she was about to contact the most powerful military officers in human space. She typed carefully on her keyboard, using encryption codes that had not been used for 20 years. The message was hidden inside normal colony supply reports, but the real meaning was clear to anyone who knew the old military ciphers. 6 stars have fallen. The mothers remember. This phrase had special meaning during the Human-Centauri Wars. It was a code that meant, civilian casualties demand total response. When military commanders received this message, they knew that innocent people had been killed and that complete revenge was authorized. Minji sent the message to 3 different locations in human space. The first went to General Quan of the Terra Defense Force on Earth. The second reached Admiral Junho, who commanded patrol fleets on the Outer Rim. The third found Marshal Taehyun of Special Operations, whose units operated in secret across the galaxy. All 3 men had served with the 6 mothers during the war. They knew what these women were capable of when they were angry. They understood that sending this code meant something terrible had happened, and that worse things were about to follow. Within 2 hours, General Quan was reading the message in his office on Earth. He was 55 years old now, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been enjoying peaceful retirement from active military service. But when he saw those words, he felt the old fire return. Quan picked up his secure communication device and began making calls. "This is General Quan, authorization code Omega-77. I need the 3rd Fleet mobilized for immediate deployment. Yes, I know it is the middle of the night. Yes, I know they are supposed to be on training exercises. This is a real emergency." Admiral Junho received the message on his flagship in the Centauri sector. He was 48 and had been promoted to fleet command after the war ended. His ships were disguised as merchant vessels, pretending to carry trade goods between colonies. In reality, they were fully armed warships ready for battle. "Signal all ships," Junho ordered his communications officer. "We are changing course for the new Sol system. Maximum speed, and send a message to our friends in the Merchant Marine. Tell them the old contracts are active again." Marshal Taehyun got the message at a hidden base near the Galactic Rim. He was 43 and specialized in operations that officially did not exist. His soldiers were scattered across dozens of worlds, pretending to be civilians while watching for threats to human colonies. "Activate all sleeper agents in Vaxian territory," he commanded his staff. "Full authorization for direct action. Someone has made the mistake of harming our people. It is time to remind the galaxy why humans won the last war." As the 3 military leaders prepared their forces, the situation on New Sol was changing rapidly. The 6 mothers had finished their preparations and were ready to begin active resistance. Hana's biological weapons were the first to strike. Commander Thexmar and his senior officers had been eating food grown in the colony's agricultural domes. For 3 days, they had consumed fruits and vegetables that contained slow-acting toxins designed specifically for Vaxian biology. The effects began at dawn on the 4th day. Thexmar woke up feeling sick and dizzy. His stomach hurt and his vision was blurry. When he tried to call for his medical officer, he discovered that most of his command staff had the same symptoms. It must be some kind of human disease. Thexmar told his lieutenant Vectar, who was also feeling ill. "These primitive creatures live in unsanitary conditions. We probably caught something from their food or air." They were partially right. It was something from their food. But it was not a natural disease. It was a carefully designed biological weapon that would weaken them without killing them immediately. Nari wanted the Vaxian leaders alive, but unable to think clearly or react quickly. While the alien officers struggled with illness, Bora put her tactical plans into action. She had taught the colonists to act like frightened civilians while secretly coordinating their movements like a military unit. At exactly 800 hours, accidents began happening all over the colony. A power cable mysteriously broke near the main Vaxian guard post, forcing the aliens to send repair teams. A water pipe burst in the communications center, flooding important equipment. The food storage building suffered a sudden pest infestation that required immediate attention. Each incident seemed unrelated and unimportant. But together, they forced the Vaxian soldiers to spread out across the colony in small groups. Bora was using classic tactics to divide enemy forces before striking. Isol waited until the Vaxians were scattered and distracted. Then she activated the hidden systems she had built into the colony's power grid. Explosions rocked 3 Vaxian guard posts simultaneously. The aliens' communication equipment went dead. Their vehicles stopped working as their engines were overloaded by power surges. "We are under attack," Vectar shouted into his radio, but only static answered. All Vaxian communication systems in the colony had been destroyed or disabled. Yunji's hidden weapon caches were opened, and distributed to the colonists. Men and women who had seemed like helpless farmers suddenly appeared with military-grade rifles and armor. They moved with precision and discipline that shocked the Vaxian soldiers. "These are not civilians," a Vaxian trooper screamed as he was surrounded by armed humans. "They fight like trained soldiers." The trooper was right. Many of the colonists were retired military personnel who had served under the Six Mothers during the war. They had come to New Sol seeking peace, but they had not forgotten how to fight. As the battle raged through the colony streets, Minji coordinated psychological warfare operations across Vaxian space. She had spent the past 4 days hacking into alien communication networks and planting false information. Vaxian military units throughout the sector began receiving reports of human fleet movements. Patrol ships reported contact with mysterious vessels that disappeared before they could be identified. Supply convoys found their routes had been changed without authorization. Commanders received conflicting orders from different sources. "The humans are mobilizing," Vaxian officers told each other. "Something big is happening. Maybe we should request reinforcements." Admiral Zexion, the Vaxian sector commander, dismissed these reports from his flagship in orbit above the Vaxian homeworld. He was an old soldier with many victories against alien species. He believed Vaxians were superior to all other forms of life. "Humans are farmers and merchants," he told his staff. "They do not have real military forces. These reports are just nervous officers seeing threats that do not exist. A few trading ships and patrol boats cannot threaten the Vaxian Empire." But the reports kept coming. Human vessels were being detected near Vaxian installations. Communication intercepts suggested major military preparations. Intelligence sources reported unusual activity in human space. "Perhaps we should investigate," suggested Zexion's intelligence officer. "If the humans are planning something, we should know what it is." "Investigate if you wish," the admiral replied. "But you will find nothing more dangerous than merchant ships carrying grain and textiles. Humans learned their place during the last war. They would not dare challenge us again." On New Sol, the Six Mothers were proving just how wrong Admiral Zexion was. The Vaxian occupation force was being systematically destroyed by enemies they had thought were weak and helpless. Commander Thexmar tried to coordinate his troops, but the biological weapons in his system made it hard to think clearly. His communication equipment was destroyed. His vehicles would not start. His soldiers were scattered and under attack from multiple directions. "How is this possible?" he asked Vectar as they took cover behind an overturned vehicle. "These are simple colonists. They should not be able to fight like this." "Sir," Vectar replied, "I think we made a terrible mistake. These humans are not what they seemed." Through the smoke and explosions, Thexmar saw 6 women walking toward his position. They moved calmly through the battle, unafraid of the weapons fire around them. Each woman carried herself with the confidence of someone who had seen much worse fighting than this. Nari approached first. She was no longer wearing the simple clothes of a colony doctor. Instead, she wore combat armor that had been hidden in Yunji's secret storage. Medical symbols on her uniform identified her as a military medic, but her expression was not gentle or caring. "Commander Thexmar," she said, in a voice cold as space ice, "I am General Nari of the Terran Medical Corps. I believe you killed my son." Bora stepped up beside her. She wore the uniform of a Terran Strategic Operations officer. Her insignia showed the rank of general and combat decorations that Thexmar recognized as symbols of major victories. "I am General Bora," she said calmly. "You killed my daughter. I want you to know that this battle is only the beginning. My tactical analysis indicates that your entire fleet will be destroyed within 72 hours. One by one, the other 4 women introduced themselves. Hana, in the green uniform of Agricultural Warfare Command. Minji, wearing the dark blue of Communications Intelligence. Hyunji, in the red and gold of... Exactly 18 hours after the 6 mothers revealed themselves to Commander Thexmar, Admiral Junho's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Sol system. The ships appeared to be normal merchant vessels carrying trade goods between colonies. But appearances can be very deceiving. "Signal all vessels," Admiral Junho commanded from his flagship. "Drop the disguises and prepare for combat operations." The merchant ships began to change. False hull panels fell away to reveal hidden weapon systems. Fake cargo containers opened to launch fighter squadrons. What had looked like a peaceful trading convoy was actually a fully armed battle fleet designed for war. At the same time, Similar transformations were happening in 12 other star systems throughout Vaxian space. Human merchants and civilians were revealing themselves as soldiers and warships. The network that General Quan, Admiral Junho, and Marshal Taehyun had built over 20 years of peace was finally showing its true purpose. On New Sol, the battle for the colony was almost over. The Vaxian occupation force had been completely defeated by the Six Mothers and their civilian colonists. Commander Thexmar was dead, killed by Nari's biological weapons. Most of his soldiers were either dead or captured. Lieutenant Vectar was one of the few Vaxians still alive. He sat in the colony's detention center, staring at the walls and trying to understand what had happened. 3 days ago, he had been part of a proud Imperial force occupying a weak human settlement. Now he was a prisoner of war, captured by enemies he had thought were helpless farmers. Bora entered the detention area to question him. She no longer looked like a simple school teacher. In her general's uniform, with her tactical equipment and command authority, she was clearly a professional military officer with years of combat experience. Lieutenant Vectar, she said, sitting across from him, I have some questions about Vaxian fleet movements in this sector. I will not betray the Empire, Vectar replied, though his voice shook with fear. You do not need to betray anyone, Bora told him calmly. I already know everything about your fleet positions, supply lines, and command structure. I have been monitoring Vaxian communications for the past week. I just want to confirm some details. She showed him a data pad displaying detailed information about Vaxian military operations. Fleet locations, officer names, ship specifications, and tactical plans were all listed with perfect accuracy. How? Vectar whispered. This information is classified at the highest levels. Lieutenant, I spent 3 years during the war intercepting alien communications and breaking enemy codes. Vaxian encryption is much simpler than what the Centaurians used. Your security systems are like children's toys to someone with my experience. Vectar realized that the humans had not just defeated his ground forces. They had been watching and analyzing his entire military for days or weeks. They knew everything about Vaxian capabilities and plans. In orbit above New Sol, the Vaxian fleet was beginning to understand that they faced a real threat. Admiral Zexion had dismissed early reports of human military activity. But now his ships were detecting armed vessels throughout the system, and his communication with the ground forces had been completely cut off. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we are reading at least 40 human warships in this system. They appeared to be merchant vessels, but they are definitely military craft. 40 ships? Zexion could not believe it. That is impossible. Humans do not have 40 warships in this entire sector. Sir, we are also receiving reports from other systems. Human fleets are appearing throughout our territory. Our bases on Corax Prime and Vectar Station are under attack. Zexion felt a cold fear growing in his chest. This was not a small colonial rebellion. This was a coordinated military operation involving multiple fleets and thousands of soldiers. The humans had been planning this for a long time. Open a communication channel to the human fleet, he ordered. I will negotiate with their commander. Sir, the communications officer replied, we are receiving a transmission from the human flagship. It is addressed to you personally. Admiral Junho's face appeared on the main screen. He was a man in his late 40s with steel-gray eyes and the calm expression of someone who had fought many battles. His uniform bore the insignia of the Terran fleet and combat decorations that showed service in major conflicts. Admiral Zexion, Junho said politely, I am Admiral Junho of the Terran fleet. I believe you have been occupying one of our colonies without permission. Admiral, there has been a misunderstanding, Zexion began. This world is claimed by the Vaxian Empire under ancient territorial rights. No, Admiral. There is no misunderstanding. You invaded a human colony and murdered 6 children who were playing in a park. This is an act of war against the Terran Republic. Zexion felt his confidence slipping away. The human admiral spoke with the authority of someone who represented a real military power, not a collection of farming settlements. Admiral Junho, perhaps we can negotiate a peaceful solution to this crisis. The time for negotiation ended when your ground commander ordered an orbital bombardment on innocent children. Junho replied coldly, you have exactly 10 minutes to surrender your fleet and prepare for war crimes trials. If you refuse, my ships will destroy every Vaxian vessel in this system. You cannot threaten the Vaxian Empire, Zexion protested. We have the most powerful fleet in this sector. Admiral, you have 37 ships. I have 42. But more importantly, my ships are crewed by veterans of the Human Centauri Wars. Your crews have never fought against an enemy that could fight back effectively. This will not be a battle. It will be a demonstration of why humans won the last war. Aboard Junho's flagship, the crew prepared for combat with the efficiency of experienced soldiers. These men and women had served together for years, fighting pirates and raiders on the outer rim. They had been disguised as merchant sailors, but they were really some of the best naval personnel in human space. Weapon systems online, reported the tactical officer. Shields, at maximum power, added the engineering chief. All fighters launched and ready for attack runs, confirmed the flight. Controller Admiral Junho looked at the display, showing Vaxian fleet positions. He had studied their tactical manuals and analyzed their combat records. Vaxian commanders relied on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. They were not prepared for enemies who could match their technology and exceed their skill. Signal the fleet, Junho ordered. Execute attack pattern Omega. Target their command ships first. The human fleet moved with precision that shocked the Vaxian observers. Instead of charging directly at the enemy, the ships spread out and approached from multiple angles. Fighter squadrons used asteroid fields as cover, while larger vessels provided supporting fire from long range. It was classic human naval tactics, developed during years of fighting against numerically superior enemies. The Vaxians had more ships, but the humans had better coordination and more experienced crews. The battle was over in less than 2 hours. Vaxian ships that had seemed mighty and invincible were destroyed or disabled by human forces that fought with skill and determination. Admiral Zexion's flagship was captured intact when boarding parties led by Terran Marines overwhelmed his crew. As the space battle ended, similar conflicts were concluding throughout Vaxian territory. Marshal Taehyun's special forces had struck at key installations, while local populations rose in rebellion. What the Vaxian Empire had thought was a secure sector was revealed to be filled with human agents and hidden military assets. On the Vaxian homeworld, emergency meetings were being held in the Imperial Council chambers. Reports flooded in from across their territory, all telling the same story. Human fleets were appearing everywhere. Vaxian installations were under attack. Years of careful expansion were being undone in a matter of hours. How is this possible? Demanded Emperor Thekfor, the supreme leader of the Vaxian Empire. Our intelligence report said humans were a weak species with limited military capability. Your Majesty, replied Intelligence Director Kexmar, our analysis was based on human behavior during peacetime. We observed their civilian settlements and trade activities. We did not realize they had maintained hidden military forces. But where did these fleets come from? How did they build so many warships without our knowledge? Sir, it appears that many human merchant vessels were actually disguised military craft. Their civilian settlements contained hidden bases and weapon manufacturing facilities. They have been preparing for war while pretending to be peaceful. Emperor Thekfor felt the foundation of Vaxian power beginning to crack. For generations, his empire had expanded by conquering species they considered inferior. They had always chosen targets that could not fight back effectively. Now they had attacked an enemy that was not only capable of resistance, but had been secretly preparing for this exact situation. What do our military advisors recommend? The Emperor asked. General Vekthon, the supreme military commander, looked at the tactical reports with growing alarm. Your Majesty, the humans have achieved complete tactical surprise. Their coordinated attack has neutralized our forward bases and scattered our fleets. We estimate that 60% of our military assets in the occupied sectors have been destroyed or captured. Then we will send reinforcements from the 2 weeks after the first battle at New Sol, the Vaxian Empire was learning what it meant to fight humanity when humans were truly angry. Reports flooded into the imperial capital from every corner of Vaxian space. Human fleets had appeared in 47 different systems. Vaxian bases were under siege. Supply lines were cut. Communication networks were jammed or controlled by human forces. Emperor Thekfor sat in his war room, staring at tactical displays that showed disaster after disaster. Red markers indicated lost territory. Yellow markers showed systems under attack. Green markers, representing secure Vaxian space, were disappearing faster than his advisors could update the maps. How many ships have we lost? He asked General Vekthon. Your Majesty, our latest count shows 437 vessels destroyed or captured. That represents nearly 70% of our forward fleet strength. And human losses? Intelligence estimates suggest fewer than 50 human ships have been destroyed. Their tactics appear designed to minimize their own casualties while maximizing ours. The Emperor could not understand how this had happened. 3 weeks ago, the Vaxian Empire was the dominant power in this sector of the galaxy. They controlled trade routes, commanded respect from alien species, and expanded their territory at will. Now they were losing a war against an enemy they had thought was weak and primitive. What do our captured officers tell us about human capabilities? Intelligence Director Kexmar activated a recording device. We have interrogated several Vaxian commanders who survived encounters with human forces. Their reports are disturbing. The voice of Admiral Zexion filled the room. He had been captured during the battle at New Sol and was now a prisoner aboard a human ship. They are not what we thought. Zexion's recorded voice said, "The humans fight like they have been preparing for this war for decades. Their ships work together perfectly. Their tactics are flawless. Their technology is equal to ours, and their crews are much more experienced." "But how is this possible?" came the voice of his interrogator. "We made a fundamental error in our intelligence assessment. We observed human civilian populations and concluded that their entire species was soft and peaceful. We did not realize that they maintained professional military forces separate from their civilian settlements." "Are you saying they deliberately deceived us?" "I am saying we deceived ourselves. We saw what we wanted to see, a weak enemy that would not fight back. The reality is that humans are one of the most militarily capable species in the galaxy. They simply choose not to advertise this fact." Emperor Thekvor turned off the recording. "If this assessment is correct, then we have started a war with an enemy that is stronger than we are." "Your Majesty," General Vecthon said carefully, "there may be a way to end this conflict before it escalates further. The humans appear to be fighting for a specific goal, revenge for the children killed on New Sol. If we offer appropriate compensation and guarantees of non-interference, you suggest we surrender to these creatures?" The Emperor's voice carried dangerous anger. "Sir, I suggest we negotiate from a position that recognizes reality. The humans have demonstrated superior military capability. Continuing this war may result in the complete destruction of our empire." Before the Emperor could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the war room. Emergency lights flashed as communications officers received urgent messages from across Vaxian space. "Your Majesty," a communications technician called out, "we are receiving reports of human attacks on the core worlds. Terran fleets have been detected in the Vaxia Prime system." The Emperor felt ice form in his chest. Vaxia Prime was the capital world of his empire, protected by the most powerful defenses available to Vaxian technology. If humans could threaten the home system, then nowhere was safe. "How many ships?" he demanded. "Sir, preliminary reports indicate at least 200 human vessels of various classes. They appeared simultaneously at multiple jump points around the system." General Vecthon studied the incoming tactical data with growing alarm. "Your Majesty, this force is larger than our entire home defense fleet. If they attack the capital directly, they will not attack the capital," the Emperor said with more confidence than he felt. "They are trying to force us to negotiate. This is psychological warfare." He was partially correct. The human fleet surrounding Vaxia Prime was indeed meant to force negotiations. But the humans were prepared to do much more than psychological warfare if the Vaxians refused to surrender. General Quan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Vaxian defense stations scramble to respond to the sudden appearance of the Terran fleet. He was 73 years old and had hoped to spend his remaining years in peaceful retirement. But when he received Minji's coded message about the 6 fallen stars, he knew his war was not over yet. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "Vaxian home fleet is moving to intercept 43 capital ships and supporting escorts. Signal all vessels," Quan ordered. "Maintain defensive formation but do not fire unless fired upon. We are here to end this war, not to slaughter civilians." "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Vaxian Emperor." Emperor Thekvor's image appeared on the main screen. He was a large reptilian creature with ornate scales and ceremonial armor that indicated his royal status. His yellow eyes showed fear despite his attempt to appear confident. "I am Emperor Thekvor of the Vaxian Empire. You are in violation of our sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." General Quan studied the alien leader for a moment before responding. Your Majesty, I am General Quan of the Terran Defense Force. 3 weeks ago, your forces invaded a human colony and murdered 6 children. We are here to discuss the terms of your surrender. Surrender? The Emperor's voice rose in anger. The Vaxian Empire does not surrender to inferior species. Your Majesty, in the past 2 weeks my forces have destroyed or captured 70% of your military assets. Your forward bases have been eliminated. Your supply lines have been cut. Your communication networks are compromised. You are in no position to make demands. The Emperor looked at something off-screen, probably receiving updates from his military advisors. When he turned back to Quan, some of the anger had been replaced by uncertainty. What are your terms? He asked reluctantly. Complete withdrawal from all human territory, payment of reparations for the families of the murdered children, extradition of all officers involved in the New Soul massacre for trial in human courts, and formal recognition of human sovereignty over our claimed space. These terms are unacceptable. Then this war will continue until your empire no longer exists, Quan replied calmly. Your Majesty, you started this conflict by killing innocent children. My people are prepared to finish it by any means necessary. You threaten genocide? I threaten justice. The choice of how much destruction you suffer before accepting justice is entirely yours. The transmission ended as the Emperor cut the connection. General Quan turned to his staff officers and prepared for the possibility that negotiations would fail. Meanwhile, on New Soul, the 6 mothers were dealing with the aftermath of their successful defense. The colony was rebuilding, but the scars of the Vaxian occupation remained. More importantly, the women were struggling with what they had become during the crisis. Nari sat in her medical clinic, treating colonists who had been injured during the fighting. But she could not stop thinking about the biological weapons she had used against the Vaxians. She had sworn an oath to do no harm, but she had created diseases specifically designed to kill alien soldiers. I became a monster, she told Bora during one of their evening meetings. I used my medical knowledge to cause suffering and death. You became what the situation required, Bora replied. Your biological weapons saved human lives by ending the occupation quickly, but at what cost to my soul? Bora understood Nari's struggle because she felt it too. During the battle for the colony, she had used tactics that resulted in the deaths of hundreds of Vaxian soldiers. She had planned their destruction with the same cold precision she once used against the Centaurians. Hana, Minji, Yunji, and Isol all faced similar moral questions. They had used their skills to wage war with devastating effectiveness. They had become instruments of death and destruction to protect their homes and avenge their children. We made a choice, Isul said during one of their discussions. We could let the Vaxians continue killing human civilians, or we could stop them using methods we hoped never to use again. The question is, Minji added, what do we do now? The war is almost over, but the galaxy has seen what humans can do when we are angry. Other species will remember this. Good, Hana said firmly. Let them remember. Let them know that human civilians are protected by human soldiers. Let them understand that attacking our children means facing our wrath. As the women debated their actions and their future, news arrived that would make those decisions irrelevant. The Vaxian Empire had finally agreed to negotiate. Emperor Thekvor announced his decision after receiving reports that human forces were approaching the inner planets of his home system. Rather than see his capital world destroyed, he chose to accept the human terms. The negotiations took place on a neutral space station in unclaimed territory.